turn streaming on and give everybody a very good morning from us here at Gulf Harbour, Patricia and David. It's actually not a very wonderful day, but I tell you what, it doesn't look very wonderful up in the tropics either. We were just thinking that perhaps we're better off here. About the best place to be is northern Vanuatu and New Caledonia, where everything is slowly clearing, but it doesn't look too good in Fiji and Tonga and Samoa. So anyway, I'm sure you'll all find plenty to do for the day, and there's always boat jobs and the Kindle to get out. What we've got here is 12 degrees, which will make you feel better. It's a southerly, not very strong. In fact, hardly anything's moving in my garden. 4 knots of southerly. 1017. It's slightly going up. 100% cloud cover. So that's the news from here. I'll do a pause in case anyone's got anything of interest. We will be covering the usual weather roundup at the half hour, just in case there's anybody new that's joined us. And we're now looking at weather for passage making. There's a few people have commented that they're looking to leave the islands early. So David will be talking about passage to New Zealand. Passage to Australia is always pretty easy, so you'll be making your way across there. Believe it or not, the Lark is on its way north from New Zealand. They won't be hearing us at the moment. They're at about 31 at the moment, but there are toing and throwing going on. All right, if you do come to New Zealand and you are not New Zealanders, well, I said I was going to do a pause, didn't I? I will do a pause. Nothing heard, and I know that we are getting into New Caledonia, so I will find out whether we're getting into the rest of the place. And we seem to have streaming working. I have to have a head on a swivel because we've got computers all around our radio room here. But if you are coming to New Zealand and you're not New Zealanders, you will find that your currency is going to go further than you expected. Our dollar is down about 2% in recent times. So certainly the US dollar, you're going to get a lot for your money. Even with the amount that the banks take, you'll get for every $1,000, you'll get about $1,500. So that all helps because our cost of living here is probably higher than you would have expected for us being down the bottom of the globe and near Australia, which seems to be a bit cheaper. Anyway, if you want to buy a house, then you are really going to need plenty of strong currency, because although house prices have dropped in the last quarter, the average price for a house in Auckland, and we're talking about a fairly large area, is over $1 million, $1.048 million. You would be better off getting a house in the Whangarei area, where the average price is $531,000. Wellington is not too bad, $656,000, and Tauranga $705,000. But overall prices, believe it or not, are down 1.6%, and the number of people selling via auctions is significantly reduced. Auctions just, all they seem to do is get a feel for what the market value is, and then nobody actually buys anything there, and they look at doing a negotiation after the auction. Well, more news from New Zealand. The syphilis rates, I don't know why I put this in, but they're the highest they've ever been in New Zealand. Last year there were 470 people diagnosed with syphilis. You'd think it would be really easy to treat. All you need is antibiotics, I'm told. But there you are, just be a little bit cautious, some of you folk who are going to enjoy various aspects of New Zealand life. Sweden, I know we've got some cruises out there. I don't know how you will attempt to put your vote in this weekend, but the Swedish elections are on this weekend. I didn't realise it, but in 2015 there were more immigrants per head of population that came into Sweden than any other European country, including Germany. So I think that's one of the key issues that they are discussing for the Swedish elections, is the number of immigrants, particularly in certain towns where there seems to have been a huge population of immigrants taking over from Swedes. So that will be a key thing to consider when they place their votes this weekend. Well, we haven't talked about Washington for a long time. There's just an awful lot of drama. I got an email from a friend this morning. I didn't tell you, Jean said. It just sounds really, really depressing. But a book by Bob Woodward, who does a lot of these sorts of political books, has just come out about Trump and Crazy Town. It's based on interviews with a lot of previous employees, and even though he's only been there for 17 months, there are a lot of previous employees, should I say, to talk to. So that's the current drama from Washington at the moment. It's just very, very scary for normal, intellectual, intelligent people in America, what's going on over there, and I would have to say it's a bit worrying for the rest of the world. But anyway, the new book is out, and the other news from America is about the confirmation process for the new Supreme Court person, Brett Kavanaugh, who's only 54. So he's going to be there for an awful long time. Seems a decent sort of a bloke. He's very, very conservative, of course. So there you have it. That's the news from America at the moment. Getting back to sort of New Zealand, New Zealand's richest person, Graham Hart, doesn't spend much time in New Zealand, which is probably why he's rich. But anyway, his new yacht, 116 metres of it. I always get amused to see what looks like a sort of a mini ocean liner. But anyway, it's called a yacht. It's been launched in Croatia, 116 metres of it, and $250 million. It's called Ulysses again. I guess he doesn't have an awful lot of imagination for naming boats. It's currently in the Greek islands on its maiden voyage, but I don't think there's any plans to bring it to New Zealand. For those who were thinking of doing any shark diving in New Zealand, there were two operations that did shark diving, but that is now stopped. One of them was in Stewart Island, where there are about 100 great whites, and the power divers, that's abalone for you folk from America, the power divers took a court case because they maintained that the feeding and attracting of the sharks to the cages was changing their behaviour. And so the court, and this has gone to our Supreme Court now, they found in favour of the power divers, and shark diving has now been banned, the two outfits. The court case was between the shark diving people, our folk, our DOC folk, which is Department of Conservation, and the power divers. So you can't do shark diving if that was your fancy. I can't imagine doing that. But anyway, some people like it, and you now can't do it in New Zealand until they have probably a counter court case.
You do it without the cage?
You could do it without the cage, says David. All right, well, that would be good too. Down there, I tell you what, you'd need a very, very thick wetsuit because the water temperature down there in Stewart Island is very, very cold. Gosh, we've got people complaining about the cold water in New Caledonia, and it is quite cold, but boy, nothing compared to the Southern Ocean down there at Stewart Island, which is our island at the very bottom of the South Island, those who have yet to study their geography. That's about it really for my news this morning. I was interested to see a flight from Dubai to New York City, evidently, which had about 500 people on board, and 100 people were taken to hospital or medical centres. Even before they got on, half the population on the plane was coughing and looked feverish. Should never have let them board, but they did, and so by the time they got to New York, they were met by the CDC, the Centre for Disease Control, with forms for absolutely everybody, and everybody was checked temperature-wise and so on. So that was a bit of a drama. So if you ever get on a flight like that, you'll know that when you get to the end, it's going to be a slow process by the time you get off.
Did they let them in?
They did let them all in, but they checked them all for temperature, and I don't know what else they did. Some of them, of course, they had to take away. So that's the news, such as it is in the country and around the world at the moment. Looks like some of you out there didn't have a bit of wind yesterday to deal with, and looking at the reports this morning, not too much of drama. There was something of interest, and I can't remember what it was. I think it was Surreal talked about leaving somewhere, and I'll have to look it up when David's talking. But there was some interest that they had for when they wanted to check out of customs in, I think it was Samoa. I'll have to read that more carefully and pass it on. Anybody with anything, I wouldn't mind hearing if we can be heard in Fiji, because we have a bit of news for folk there. Oh, here we have it on the streaming. Bit of local noise there, and Blue Lagoon, 26 degrees. Boy, that sounds nice. Thanks, Kevin. 14 knots from the east-northeast. All right, we've got news for you guys too coming up. Is there anybody from Tonga then that could give us a report? Tonga, please. Nothing heard from Tonga. All right, so we're obviously not getting out to Tonga. Never mind. We've got Fiji, where we know we've got folk, and the rest of it should be okay from there to the west. Anybody with anything before I pass the microphone to cover the weather? I think there is somebody there, but I will need a relay. If that was somebody from Tonga, I would be interested to know whether we are getting out. My machine here says that we're putting out 350 to 450 watts, so I'm hoping that we're punching through, but could somebody, that boat that called, could you say your boat name a couple of times, and I'll see if I can get a relay. I can't copy that. I think it's a lady's voice. Do I have a relay? And make sure, obviously, when you call in, folks, that you are on high power. I know if you're doing emails, then you'll have it on low power, and sometimes folk forget to put it up when they're on speech to high power. Could I have a relay? No, we're not having much luck there. Never mind. We will go on, and maybe at the end of the session, we will be able to get some propagation. Anyway, I know David's got a lot of weather to talk about, so I will pass the microphone.
I do, and good morning, everybody. Those books you're talking about, isn't that funny that all the hate books come out before the midterm elections? How ironic. All right, everyone. Well, if you've been listening yesterday, I'm just going to mention that there isn't much change in the 500 millibar charts. The sequence is pretty much regular, ridge, trough, ridge, that sort of a thing. This is how our weather works. Now, these features have moved just a few degrees east since yesterday, since we've talked. And I've decided to take a look at the jet stream this morning, and this morning it's running quite strongly, more or less west to east. I say more or less, it's doing a bit of weaving. And roughly about 30 south, if you take a look at it on your upper level charts. And we have a streak, a jet streak that's over the Tasman, and the exit of the streak is just to the north of New Zealand. So with this, the area of upflow, that's the streak, the exit of the streak, and the shortwave trough that happens to be over New Zealand, the complex low that we've got here is still affecting the eastern side of the North Island, and of course Gulf Harbor Radio, where it's actually getting a little bit worse right now. And our high, though, is still ridging in the Tasman. The central pressure of this one is about 1032 millibar, 1032, and the very next depression moving east is nearing Tasmania. So that's what the big picture looks like. Now, we'll talk about the troughs near and over the islands in a minute, but first back to the cruising route, as a bunch of you apparently want to head to New Zealand next week, is what we've been hearing. We don't have anything specific from anybody. But,
yes, we do.
Well, we have a few. Okay. Anyhow, I'm going to talk about today and then into next week. So by lunch today, two features are of note. One is a major high that is south of French Polynesia. I'm sure if you look at your grids or your charts, you'll see this. The central pressure is about 1034 millibars, pretty strong. And it's root actually. And it's almost anchored there. And it's holding up the works, sort of like a block type. Now, over the cruising route, a low forms on one of the fronts that's heading to the north. And it is building thanks to the jet stream and that shortwave trough that we just talked about. However, instead of tracking southeast like they normally do, it's tracking south. It literally can't make any headway east due to that anchored high that's sitting there south of Polynesia. So it's sitting there, intensifying as it moves south. Eventually, it is predicted to be a 984, and it's going to lie east of East Cape by, well, probably tomorrow night into Saturday. Now, the Tasman Ridge that we described is pretty frustrated as well. It can't move either, so it sort of just squashes itself in the Tasman Sea. And it's sending southerly winds toward Fiji, Vanuatu, and New Caledonia. And for the Lark heading north, it's perfect. Those of you that are heading south, not obviously perfect at all. In fact, it's no good. Now, that blocking high starts to drag anchor late Saturday, I figure, allowing things to start moving again. So it looks like Sunday, our Tasman Ridge, I believe, is going to morph into a very weak high centered more or less south of New Caledonia, southwest of New Cal, but ridging a little bit to the east. And I would say that ridge is going to be about 25 south. So it's up quite high up toward the islands there. Now, the depression that was near Tasmania that I talked about also breaks free, and it finds itself in the Tasman underneath that high with a cold front now. And that cold front extends north, and it will arc to Hervey Bay in Queensland. Now, those that want to leave Monday, somebody wanted to leave Monday, from Fiji, you'll find reasonable southeast winds, quite tempting. Now, also then, New Zealand cops the depression. That is the one that's heading toward New Zealand now. And this is by Monday, that depression is going to almost be here, but certainly be here by Tuesday. And a frontal band is going to extend to possibly New Caledonia, and by Wednesday, possibly over Fiji. It looks like it might be moving quickly. So Wednesday, passage winds, if you leave, look to be southerly quadrant. This is Wednesday of next week, so that's not very good. Now, by Thursday of next week, we've got a 1028 high center, roughly 1028, may lie over or near northern New Zealand. Now, this is a fairly wide area high, and it's going to take over almost the entire Southwest Pacific. And possibly by, the 18th or so, I think that's a Tuesday. Yeah, about the 18th, the next front is going to hit New Zealand. And as we wave goodbye to that big high that's moving east at that point, we'll say hello to the northwest winds that are going to precede that front. And the low associated with that front is going to be over the country by maybe the 20th. Now, this is going to be followed by another strong high. The models keep vacillating on its strength, but it could be anywhere from a 1031 to a 1035, so quite strong. So all of what I have said to this point is a little bit better than a guess. I guess you could say an educated guess. It's quite far out for any of the models to be accurate, but it gives you an idea of what things are looking like through most of next week. So we'll look at it again tomorrow, and those that really do want to leave, You know the drill. If you want us to comment on it, you need to give us your time that you're going to leave and your ETA. It's very important for me to know you know what your ETA is, even if you don't make it exactly. At least I know you plan for it and you know what weather you're going to expect when you get to New Zealand. And also helps me look at that same weather and to see if what I've got agrees with what you're looking at. Okay, well that's about it for that. So we'll jump to the islands pretty quickly now, and starting with Tonga first, where a trough just simply lies over the group. You could see it on satellite imagery quite clearly. There are breaks in the cloud that we could see via the satellite, but showers are quite evident as well, and probably about the same thing tomorrow. I expect northeast winds getting up to about 20 knots today, maybe even more. Tomorrow, I expect the winds to back. So looking at maybe north to northeast in the 15 knot range. By dinner tomorrow, a shift to northwest winds, and they'll be about 15 knots as well. So we'll see some directional convergence for Tonga. Those of you that are in the Hapais need to be careful about the northwest winds, but there is shelter from that if you get to the right spot. Fiji now, where we've got an active trough that's sitting over the group, so you could expect quite simply trough conditions today and tomorrow as well. And all the reports that we've gotten from you are indicating that that's exactly what you're getting. Rotuma, by the way, has its very own trough as well, like yesterday, in fact. And essentially not such great weather for all of Fiji. The winds today, east-northeast to northeast, 15 to 20. Later today, north-northeast to northeast, just a little bit of a shift. By midnight, I think I see northerlies in the eastern half and maybe northwest winds in the western half, and possibly westerlies for Kendavu. Tomorrow looks like north-northwest for the Lau, northwest for virtually the rest of Fiji, except south to southeast winds for Kendavu and southwest Fiji Lavu. So different winds for different areas there in Fiji. Vanuatu is certainly a mixed bag. The main part of the trough is leaving the northern and central group, looking at satellite imagery. The southern areas, though, are still affected. Even so, expect scattered showers even in the north and more frequently in the south. Winds are a mix, southeast to northeast. They're all over 10 to 15 knots for the central and the northern areas, but I'm seeing southeast 20 to 25 knots in the south. And seas 1.5 meters to the north and 2.5 to the south. Tomorrow, I think we'll see southeast winds up and down the chain, so that's a big shift. Southeast winds about 15 to 20, and they'll be stronger in the south. New Caledonia, well, they've gotten better. It's gotten better there. It shows broken cloud from that trough remnants, really. By lunch, I'd say mostly sunny. Winds, I don't know, it could be 18 to 20 out of the southeast. I hope it's lighter if you're in the ELOs. Tomorrow, southeast to east-southeast, I'm thinking about the 15 knot range, and it looks pretty decent for New Cal tomorrow. So any questions or comments, come now. And by the way, if you are making your break to New Zealand, again, give me some of your details, and we'll start taking a closer look. I'm surprised a lot of you are leaving this early, but anyway, that's cruising, and here's the boss.
Well, there's other things to do, and I know one of them are going to be flying away to weddings, and the one that you were talking about, the Bitchia, they're going to be a 7 to 8 day passage person. Actually, talking about Rotuma, David mentioned, it sounds like from what Diego he was talking to a customs officer, and it might be possible from next year to clear in at Rotuma. not sure that you'll do that coming from New Zealand, but maybe coming from other parts of the east, you might want to check into Rotuma, so we'll keep track of that one. Any questions, comments, or otherwise for the weather? And Marilyn, I keep forgetting to ask you to give a call to check out your radio. I know that you have been working on it. Marilyn, if you are near the radio, give me a call. And if there is any relays from anyone, please give a call now. Otherwise, we'll leave you in peace.
Midnight sun.
Well, goodness gracious me. Midnight sun. Good strong signal as usual. Go ahead.
Good morning, guys. I'm up on Friday, rather than that. We're one of the unfortunates that unfortunately have to return to New Zealand early, which has been the case for some years due to work commitment. And we're looking to drop down to New Zealand. And we're going to make some comments that reinforces some things that they have said and also has documented on. And that is that if you can see New Zealand has been for Vanuatu or Fiji and where they come from, if you can join the hot New Zealand, you get a shorter weather window for the final next to New Zealand, and the opportunity then of getting a more accurate weather forecast just maybe 5 days. So we're going to be heading through probably Sunday, motorcycling through Minerva Reef, and we can sit there for as long as it takes to then get our window down to New Zealand. And that means that under 5 days weather forecast, which we think is more accurate than the at least 8 forecast we believe is possible. And because of the checking procedure and 24 hours after notice and all that sort of thing. So that's that plan, and we have no idea how long we'll stay in Minerva. We've done this many times. Sometimes we veer off and head off straight to New Zealand. We don't need to stop, but on this occasion we have something that Dave mentioned about Western State, and we want to get to Minerva before Western State. Get there for a couple of days and then maybe move on. But if we have to get there for 2 weeks, we'd rather stay and do that at Minerva than in Hoover, and have that sort of see. The other thing is that in Vanuatu, and we did this 2 years ago, you can get permission from Customs to a complete checkout in Port Vila, but then stop at Anisha. And as you know, Anisha is the Portugal base, and you get a beautiful certificate which gives you that permission, and you don't see any officials down there. And the certificate says that we can wait for beautiful weather to then go to New Zealand. There was no time in the box at all, and that worked out extremely well. So just some little comments, and thank you for the comments about making and long-range forecasting. That's impossible for us to be amateurs, but certainly that was pretty good. Thanks, Dave. Thanks, Patricia.
Okay, and thank you for your comments. I'm just going to repeat a few of them because you might have been in somebody's skip. And I'll just remind people again of the value of Minerva Reef. It's mostly of use to people from Tonga because it's easy to get to from Tonga. But it is very, very useful to get to Minerva Reef and wait because you've then got a much shorter passage to New Zealand and you can plan things an awful lot better from there. And it's a good spot to be. It's a little bit difficult to get to from Fiji with the direction, but certainly doable from Suva. Not so much the other side, but doable from Suva. If you want more detail on those sorts of things, then go to our library on the website www.ghradio.co.nz. Click on weather, and there are various papers that David has written going from the islands to New Zealand, Tonga to New Zealand, Fiji to New Zealand, and so on. But really useful reminder that Minerva Reef is a good spot to be. Now, something that I did not know, and that's very useful to know, you can get permission when you clear out of Port Vila to stop at Anisham, and that is very useful because that takes, well, it gets you a lot further south, and then you can get a bit more confidence in your weather from going from Anisham to New Zealand. So evidently you get permission, you get a lovely certificate to prove that you have got that permission. So really, really interesting information for those folk coming from Port Vila or Vanuatu generally. It is quite a difficult passage, that one. It's long, so it's very hard to organise your weather. And I can tell you what, as Midnight Sun obviously knows, arrival weather in New Zealand is really important. You do not want to arrive in a southwest gale. Very, very dangerous. So make sure that you organise your arrival weather. That's why David is always absolutely adamant to know roughly what your arrival date will be, give or take. So just a reminder of that. Use Minerva, and also for those from Vanuatu, you can get that permission, which I didn't know about, to stop in Anisham. It would be worthwhile mentioning that a couple of times. I think I will try and remember to do that. So thank you for that. Always good to share useful information, particularly from people who have done the trip an awful long time. I'm trying to listen to David and talk at the same time. It doesn't really work, does it? Okay, David wants to say something. I'll pass the microphone.
No, it's for Midnight Sun. As Patricia was talking, I was looking at Sunday leaving Suva, and from what I can see, your winds are going to be south-southeast to southeast in the 15-knot range, assuming you leave, well, I'm just looking at around lunchtime on Sunday. On Monday, the wind's back a little bit. The Suva area is very light, probably a motor, and mostly easterlies. And when you get south of Candavu, it looks like east-southeast, light, maybe 10 to 15 knots. The rest of the trip to Minerva, unfortunately, the winds are going to be, well, pretty much out of the southeast, which I'm sure you figured. And looking as an example at Monday, pretty much that. However, things do change from what I can see. As you start getting south a little bit, you may be very lucky. There is a trough. It's a very, very weak trough that's coming up. And what it's doing is there's a high to the east, and winds from that high are bending around. We're looking at the west side of the high. Actually, there's a couple of highs that are up there. So in other words, it's possibly going to give you some northerly winds to help you get to Minerva. And by let's look at Tuesday here. Changes again on Tuesday. They come out of the west. So there's a lot of wind variation, and the reason for that are a number of troughs that are heading north. But yeah, the trip to Minerva, a lot on the nose, but possibly not so as you get along a bit. So it's doable, and we'll take a look at it a little closer tomorrow. And we'll probably be listening for you on Monday to see where you are. Over.
Actually, that is a good point, folks. When you do the passage to New Zealand, it is very useful to use the engine. I know we have a few purists out there, but this is not a time for the purists. You really need to make a plan and stick to it, and that's what the engine is for. So make sure that you leave with plenty of fuel, and if you have to use the engine to keep up the speed to get a particular spot at a particular time, then by all means make sure you use it. It's interesting to hear the people that are experienced at this passage do take note of what they say, because they have the experience and of all sorts of conditions and know what the best way to handle things is. All right, so and that's why David has written those papers, just to give you something to think about and explore the different options Anybody with anything? And while you have, by the way, I know a lot of you, your radios on board are not all that great. But before you leave, if you are going to go somewhere that has not got internet, such as Anisham or Minerva Reef, then let us know ahead of time where you are going to be so that we do cover the weather from that particular place onwards and give some decent information. Okay, that's about it. I just heard something go cling. I don't know what that. Oh, it was your computer, right? Can't be my phone because it's not in here. That's about it from us. If there's anything you want, just email us at ghradio@extra, which is xtra.co.nz, and we will be back again tomorrow, Friday, with the full roundup and outlook for the next few days. Cheers, everybody. We're clear. Go ahead.
Hi, me again, like that. Just to confirm that there is internet in the media this week, but with a secondary on the mast, we certainly use the download.
Oh, fantastic. Boy, things have changed. We are just so out of date. All right, there is internet at Anisham, folks. So, boy, it's not really going out in the wild these days, is it? All right, internet at Anisham. Thank you. Bye.